Hello guys, this is Blessing again. Welcome to another series on practical JavaScript. So last time we talked about query selector. This time we're going to talk about addEventlistener. So what event listener does is that it listens for actions that users will take on an HTML page or a website. So that is what addEventlistener does. So this is what makes it easy for you to interact with different parts of the web page using JavaScript. In order to make it easy to interact with addEventlistener, user actions have been divided into different parts. We have several types. We have the click, we have the focus, we have the blur, we have on Mouseout, a lot of them. But we will be focusing on just a few so that you can get started with it. The first one we're going to start with is the click event. Let me just do a little HTML structure so that we can start working with that. Okay, so we're done with the structure. So what I just did here is to type in HTML5:5 and it brings the boilerplate out. Then you can add your div with each one. I just added the little styling to center the each one and added the class. The class is very important. Remember in the query selector that we learned about, you have to have something you would use to select the element. So the class is important. Title, you can put any class. Then for this one we added the text1 class, this one text2 class. This is not important, I just added it just for styling purpose. Then we have h2 with the events. So just follow through. You can pause and type it out. We are not focusing on this one, so that's why I'm not explaining all this. So just type it out, pause it and type it out. When you're done, let's move on. Okay, so open the HTML document on your web browser. Okay, we have it opened here. Okay, now the first thing we want to do is to add an event to this button so that when we click this button, we want something to happen. So how do we do that? Remember in our last class, you query the selector first. Okay, so let's add our script here. So we first query the selector for the button so that we can interact with it. What is the class? The class is click. And I told you when you're using class, you have to use a full stop at the beginning. Okay, now we have access to this button. Then we add our magic addEventlistener. So this addEventlistener will take a lot of parameters. As you can see here in the int, we have the first one is what type of event are you listening for. The second one is what handler are you calling, what callback function are you calling after the event has been dispatched. Then you have options and other ones. Those ones are important, but for a beginner you do not really need to interact with that. So let us just start with the first two, the type of event you're listening for and the handler that you're going to set for the event. So since we are listening for a click, we'll put a click as a string here. Then the second one will be a callback function. So you can write the function like this, you can write the function like this. This is an arrow function. You can write the function like this also, or you can even declare the function outside. And call the function here, and it will still work. Do you understand? So just for the sake of tutorial, let us just use our arrow function. I'm just telling you that you can use other types. You don't really need to follow exactly this one. So when we click, let us just change this text. This is a text. Let us change it. Now to change that, what do we do? Remember in our last class, we have to select the element. So document, the query selector. What is the class? Text1 is a class. Then inner text, that is what we want to change. So inner text, so we change it. This has been changed by a button. So when we click this button, click me, it's going to change. This is a text to this has been changed by a button. Let us see if it's going to work. For it to work, we need to refresh so that our script can be updated. We've refreshed. Then when I click here, what happens? This has been changed by a button. So that is what addEventlistener does. I have to perform an action for the callback to be called. Okay, good. That's that about the click event. So the next one we want to talk about is the change event. And the special thing about change events is that it does not work for every element. It only works for specific elements. And these elements are select, which is this one, and impute. And even the impute have to be of type checkbox. The input has to be of type checkbox, but it will not work for input type text or file or any other input. So it works for select and input of type checkbox. So now that we have select, so we can use our change event here. So document the query selector. So we want to do, how do we select this now? I know we didn't talk about it, but for me, I'm expecting you will read more about it. So how do we select this one now? So we can use select directly. You know, I told you can select by tag name. Then imagine we have more than one select. The first select will be chosen if we do this, and that's not what we want. We can specify the type of select that we want by specifying the name. Get option. Get option. Very good. So now we have access to our select. So we add a listener to that select. The listener I want to add is change, a change listener. So now when we change the options, we should get access to this function. All right. Now there's something I want to introduce to you. Whenever a listener is called, there is a parameter that is passed, and that parameter is the event parameter. And we can denote it by E or anything you want. So that event has access to the element that was acted upon. So this E.target is the same thing as this. All this together is the same thing. Do you understand? So in order to get more about that, you can console log E out so that you can know what parameters are added to the event. So E.target is the same thing as this. I hope you understand. So now when we change, we want to get the value, E.target of value. Then we want to set the value to this second text. Do you understand? Okay, so let's do this. Document the query selector. I think text2 is the name of the class, right? Okay, that's good. Text2 inner text. So let's template root trial. This text has been changed by select element with value Okay, so let us check now. Let us check and see if it works. Alright, let us update our script. Our click event is still working. Then when we change, now this text has been changed by select event with value 2 because the option is 2. Option 3, value 3. Option 1, value 1. Alright, do you know where the value is coming from? The value is coming from these options, value 1, value 2, value 3. So that is how to use our change. Remember, it only works for select elements and input of type checkbox. The next one we want to talk about is focus. Focus. This focus works when a user activates a particular element or clicks a particular element or is on a particular element. That is when focus works. So let me show you how it works. Let's use the focus on our input. this impute. So we want to do it that when the impute is on focus, the background color will change. Let us just do that. So document the query selector impute with a name of change BG. So we add the event listener, then put focus. Alright, so we want to change background. Alright, I told you we can get access to the element here. So e.target dot style dot background color. Remember when we talked about style? For those of you that submitted the assignments, you should know this. Then we change the background color to a green color. It can be any color. So this is a green color. Let's see how it works. Update the script. Then when you focus it, that means you are on it. It's supposed to change the background. Now notice that when I am out of it, nothing is happening. So let us add another event, and that is the next event that we want to talk about. It is the blur event. The blur is the opposite of focus. So focus is when a particular element is active. So when I go out of that element, I click somewhere else, that is, I am out of that element, and that event is what we call blur. So let us work on that, so that when we are out of the impute, we get a white background back. So we are just going to duplicate this. Let me duplicate this. Let me change this to blur. Alright, so when this is blurred, that means the focus has gone out of it. We'll change it back to white. So that is the blur. The blur is the opposite of focus. Let's check it out now. Okay, so when I blur, when I focus, so it changes to green. When I go out, it changes to white. You see, that is how easy it is to work with addEventlistener. The next one I want to talk about is Impute. Impute works with input boxes, obviously. So when I type in something here, it should be getting all the letters here. It is good when you want to use it for a search. Well, I'm going to do the video very soon, and I'll add the link. I will add the link up here. When you search, it should be getting the text and doing a real-time search for you. So as soon as you are typing it in, it is doing a real-time search for you. But what we are going to do now is, as soon as we are typing anything here, it should be showing on this place. That is what we want to do now. So that is what we use the event for. So the next event we want to talk about is the Impute event. Impute. So as we are typing, we want to change this to whatever we are typing. So I know we've gotten that before. Okay, so this is it. So let's just be copying and pasting, right? Okay, now I'll copy this, then inner text. I hope you understand what I'm trying to do. The inner text equals to e.target, which is the input, then the value of that input is what we want to write there. So now when we type into this input, it will change whatever is inside this div into the value of the input. Alright, let us update our script. So when I focus and I type, are you seeing that it is updating? This is coming from the input box. Alright, so it is updating, and that is what the Impute listener does. When I even erase, it also updates it like that. Alright, good. So now we understand what the Impute listener does. Let's move to the next one. So the next listener that I want to do is the Mouseover. So this is the same with the over in CSS. When you over on a particular element, something should happen. In CSS we have that also, but this one is called Mouseover. Now I want to do, let me choose a particular element. Let's choose this paragraph element. So when we over on this paragraph element, what happens? We change the text to color red. Let's just do it like that. Okay, let's copy this all again. Let's query it by this class. Okay, so document or query dot paragraph text, which is the class here, then Mouseover. So when there is a Mouseover event, what do? We target that element and we change the color, style dot color, we change it to red. Let us check it now. So this is the tag. So when I comment now, you see that it's changed to red. When I go out, it's supposed to change back. That is what we want, but the event is only on Mouseover. So how do we do it? That when we come here, it changes to red, and when we go out, it changes back to black. So that takes us to another event, which is the Mouseout. So Mouseover works when you are on the element. Mouseout works when you are outside the element. It's just like focus and blur, but the only difference is that you do not need to click on the element. Focus requires you to click on the element, and blur requires you to click outside of the element for it to work. But for Mouseover and Mouseout, you only need to hover on the element and hover outside of the element for it to work. So that is the difference between those two. So let us now add a listener for Mouseout. So let's put the listener as part of this place also. Target dot addEventlistener Mouseout. So on Mouseout, let's return the color back to black. Okay, so let us check if it works. Now when I hover on this, it turns to red. Then when I go out, it turns to black, and that is exactly what we want. Mouseover, Mouseout. Good. Let us move to the next listener. So the last listener I will be working on today is the select listener. There are several listeners. In fact, I can see there are 100, 1000 listeners, but I'm just focusing on this one because you will most likely be dealing with them, especially with click and change. Those are like two popular listeners that you'll be dealing with. So let's work with select now. So what we want to do now is that select would use our impute. The reason is because select only works for input boxes and text area, and the input must be of type text. It cannot work on other types of input, and you can also use it on text area. So what we want to do is when we select a text in the input, the text would be shown somewhere, or something should happen. That is what the select listener is for. The select event is for. So the input, because the input is of type text, so we can use it, then select. So this select, we want to do that when we select, we want to change text to one, this one. We want to change it to the portion we selected. So the portion of text we selected, we want to change it to, we want to use it to replace whatever is in text one. And how do we do this? We first get the value, then we look for the substring. Substring is a function provided by JavaScript. So replace what is in text one with whatever we've selected. And how do we do this? We use the selection start and selection end property that comes with the select event. So e.target the value dot substring is a function provided by JavaScript. Then we can do selection start and selection end. So this is attached to e.target. Same thing with this e.target. Okay, so let us check if it works. So we'll change the text here. So when I select from here, you see it changes here. If I select only this, it changes here. That's what the select event does. So I hope you understand what addEventlistener does. It's a world of its own, and I would implore you to go crazy with it and try different things with it. Until next time, we'll look into something else. Keep practicing, keep enjoying JavaScript, and we'll meet next time.